Hi, everybody. I'm here with Marcin, who's founder of Malwarebytes. And Malwarebytes is a company with around 1,000 employees and 250 million ARR in revenue. So definitely interesting guest today. Marcin, why don't we start with the origin story, how it all started? How are you here?
Yeah, well, first of all, you're the only one that can actually pronounce my name, Marcin, aside from my mother, I guess. But yeah, started the business as a teenager, believe it or not, in a small basement in Chicago. We had a family computer that I decided to screw up with a pirated video game. Didn't know what to do. So I went online. I searched my symptoms like anybody else would. I'm talking about like a purple gorillas jumping around my screen trying to sell me stuff, right? Like very annoying, but not that bad. Not like the cyber threats of today. So I go on the internet, I type in my symptoms, and I land on a message board. And this woman in Belgium, who actually works for us today, believe it or
Oh, no
not,
way.
yeah, like 20
Awesome.
years later, comes to my rescue and gives me this like long set of instructions to go
So
follow.
karma.
Yeah, I
Nice.
mean, uh, uh, by the way, I'm like shocked, right? That there's this volunteer. I call them superheroes. These
Right.
people on this message board helping people like me for free. I follow the instructions. Computer's back to health. But I decided I want to stick. I want to stick around this community of people and like truly help, become a superhero myself. Um, I decided to pick up like a Visual Basic for Dummies book. Like Visual Basic is already out of style. And this is a for Dummies book, so you feel super embarrassed, right? And I built some free apps to try to automate some of these processes. Long story short, people like the ones helping others are seeing the value in it, and it sort of took off. In fact, the Malwarebytes name was donated to me by somebody in that community. So 2008, me and a couple co-founders again met them on this message board, launched the free version of Malwarebytes, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That is awesome. That's pretty great story. So tell me, when you were starting Malwarebytes, what were the biggest challenges you faced? What was the most painful? How many times did you think, "Hey, I was just gonna stop doing that"?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because the whole business was sort of an accident, and when you're moving forward with the grit you might have, just because you never expected it to be successful, it sort of takes the pressure off of things. But I'll give you a story. This is sometime in July of 2008. I'm due at the University of Illinois in August of 2008. So I tell my mom, "Hey, the business is starting to sort of do well. I'm not going to go." And that was a very short conversation. We were packing my stuff like hours later, right? So, even from the beginning, my parents put this ethos in me where it's like, an education is important. I'm a, uh, born in Poland, so emigrated in 1994. Uh,
You were, like, 2 years old or something.
6 years old, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
something like that.
Mhm,
Nobody in my family had gone to college, so like
mhm.
parents sort of pushed me into that. And, I can't tell you how many times throughout the university kind of career or whatever, I thought about dropping out or quitting the business, one or the other, and was able to successfully balance both. It was, actually a ton of fun and learned a lot.
Awesome. So can you paint the landscape of the industry? Like, how large is Malwarebytes? What kind of niche it is? If you can just like, give a scoop.
Yeah, let's start with why Malwarebytes was successful in the beginning. You had a lot of legacy, what we would call antivirus players. The industry has evolved tremendously. Let's talk about that in a second. But at the time, 2008, antivirus was sort of enough. Microsoft didn't really provide anything out of the box. So you had the McAfees, the Symantec, Nortons of the world. I think you're familiar with all these brands. And they weren't very effective. And they were charging egregious pricing. They were, you know, detecting threats using signatures. By definition, that's a reactive tactic maneuver. So Malwarebytes was really successful because we layered on top of that antivirus. We went after the most, prevalent or pervasive threats. We were two-man operation, so we couldn't really compete with the resources that these other vendors had. But for all intents and purposes, the industry in 2008 was extremely stagnant. It was dominated by legacy players, and it was just an amazing opportunity for some of the next gen players. And in fact, many others have since sort of spawned where those legacy players are no longer as relevant. But we serve consumers, so that's really our origin story. People like me, people like you who had issues with a virus at the time, and now obviously much more is going on in the world. And in sort of 2012, 2013, we started to serve businesses as well, just based on the organic demand. A lot of mistakes made along the way, actually, in defining that go to market. I'm sure we'll talk about today.
Yeah, tell me about it. So Malwarebytes is kind of dividing into two entities or two subcategories or two pillars of business, right? One is B2B, another one is B2C. Can you talk about it more?
Yeah, I joke that I accidentally started two businesses. One that served consumers, which launched in 2008, and then another that served enterprise. And we had really no reason to be in the large enterprise. So here's this consumer business. You're talking about a highly organic, velocity-driven business where people type in their credit cards online, and Bob's your uncle, as they say in the Midwest. And then you've got this, sales intensive, marketing intensive B2B business, and it's for all intents and purposes the same product, maybe a management console overlay, et cetera, et cetera. We really had no business being in that business. It was again accidentally we got dragged into it. We started putting resources behind it, and I would criticize this as one of the mistakes I made, not entering that business, but not really being as practical as I should have, hiring the right people at the right time in those early days. So to me, it was an opportunity of just like taking a step back and realizing what are we actually who are we actually trying to serve. And now as we sort of re- restructure the business, meaning there's a consumer part of the business, a B2B part of that business. There's two different brands, two different teams. We've defined our market, mid-market, SMB, and managed service providers. We're not going after the largest enterprises in the world. There's many players that are doing that effectively. And just by separating those two businesses, we've become much more successful.
So let's talk about sales and GTM for the B2B part first. So how does that work? How do you guys actually sell?
Yeah, this goes back to the sort of uh, inception of the B2B business. Because the demand was so organic and inbound, we sold directly to those customers. We had a large team doing so. We had an account management team, a marketing team, you name it. The reality is cybersecurity is sold through the channel predominantly. And so we have, you have a tremendous distribution animal when you involve the channel. Just looking at CDW, SHI, they each have thousands of reps. I can't hire thousands of reps. And it's about creating the right program incentives, bringing the right interfaces together. And long story short, we sort of decided to go and lean into this direct motion and are now, having to clean a lot of that up. So the last 3 or 4 years, as we've launched the Threat Down brand, which is what the B2B brand is, we've relaunched a channel, hired a bunch of people that had experience in the channel, are sort of repairing some of those relationships because we've been starting and stopping. And it's a big lesson I learned early on that, don't just act. You put some thought into just sort of what the go-to-market structure needs to look like, and what the incentives need to look like, both internally but also externally to your partners.
Gotcha. So channel partnership, selling through MSPs, MSSPs is the key for you guys. And how do you like what are some of I know you're not in GTM on the daily, you're running the whole business, so you have a lot of other things to take care of. But what are the ways of actually having those MSPs wanting to sell more, or those MSSPs to sell more, except for obviously Malwarebytes legacy. But can you talk more about that?
Yeah, this is where I spoil the show and tell
Okay.
everybody I have no idea what I'm doing on the go-to-market side and that I'm a technologist at heart. And I'm here just to share all the mistakes I've made along the
Yeah.
way. To answer your question, a lot of the VARs, the channel partners, and the managed service providers, security service providers, know us from the Malwarebytes brand. So when we started Malwarebytes, the free remediation product was heavily used. I would argue abused for profit purposes by every company, every service provider, every channel partner in the world. And so there's that organic, association to that brand where people know of it. And so even when we launched Threat Down, which is meant to be the business portion of the B2B brand, we sort of tagged it as powered by Malwarebytes because we didn't want to lose that altogether, or at least not all at once. So it's been hard to try to walk, chew gum on top of a bicycle and all that. But we do still have some of that organic fondness of the brand. And then it's really just going out there and recruiting those partners. You've got to get the right channel program in place. Like they are heavily incentivized, proprietors as well. Many of them old repair shops that were on a corner had to transform their own business to be, managed service providers. So it's the unit economics. It's the team you build to go out there and hit the street. It's also the brand that you build. Threat Down being, the new brand that we're trying to sort of put brand equity behind. But yeah, it takes a village, as they say.
So how do you guys think about pricing and yeah, what's the logic behind it?
Well, let's talk about MSPs. I mean, they're all there to make money, right? And
Hmm.
so your product, your technology, your service needs to be affordable to the end customer with a margin on top, right? I mean, we have something like 4,000 managed service providers out
Hmm.
there. They sell to something like 35,000 end customers on the B2B side. So these are not 100, 200 person companies. These managed service providers are managing two-person dental offices, right? I mean, these are the heroes out on the street. In fact, I don't think the world works without managed service providers because to have, how does a 5-person, 10-person company protect themselves? So many of these managed service providers are creating their own bundling and packaging and their own go-to-market. I mean, it's a very complex, there's no script for this, right? If you were to start a managed service uh, uh, shop today and recruit customers in your local neighborhood and try to position IT and security services, you're sort of starting from scratch. There's no real book written. There's some ideas out there. There's many managed service conferences, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you just got to figure out what the pricing works. And look, the nice thing is there's so many competitors in the space that there are some guidelines of what works and what doesn't. And if you're well out of that scope, it's not going to work, right? So looking at competitors, talking to as many managed service providers as you can, at least in our case, and then understanding what end customers are willing to pay and what the margins look like for the MSP, I think is big part of it.
That's really interesting. And so when you work with your team with those channel partnerships, it's not just US, right? You guys have multiple different offices. Can you talk a little bit more about which other countries you guys are in?
Yeah, so obviously started in Chicago, moved to the Bay Area, have a big office there, and Tampa, Florida. So that's our U.S. presence. Quickly realized there's an opportunity in EMEA, so opened our office, an engineering office in Tallinn, Estonia. Realized it's hard to recruit go-to-market, talent there. Not impossible, just harder. I think it's well known for its technical universities, et cetera. So we opened an office in Cork, Ireland. A lot of great companies there already, Apple, Microsoft, with customer success centers and hubs, sales and marketing hubs. So have about 100 people there, primarily focused on sales, marketing, and customer support success.
Got it. So when you mentioned Estonia, I know you like Estonian kind of approach to cybersecurity and just general like being a I don't want to say like a more digital country, or I'm not sure how to describe
No,
it, but
that's absolutely right. I mean,
can you talk about that?
yeah.
Like
So
talk,
I was even I like
mhm,
kind of the technologist
mhm,
and cybersecurity
yeah.
expert, quote unquote. When I learned how Estonia is doing, running the government and just average citizen life, it was fascinating to me. I myself have a e-residency card. It's literally a digital ID.
Mhm.
Well, it's a physical ID with a chip, but also you could have a digital ID, and everything is done pretty much online. So whether it's your insurance, your banking, your any interaction with the government, you getting your license, et cetera. Everything is done digitally. You sign contracts and documents for employment and other purposes, all through your digital card. We had an employee in Estonia that moved to the Irish office in Cork, and she said we went back 20 years. Everything was back on paper. And Estonia's cyber capabilities, both offensive and defensive, are extreme. I mean, they really are investing in that aspect of it. So just seeing how progressive they are in terms of digital, and then the necessities to secure that, but also being in proximity of Russia, in proximity directly adjacent to Russia, and having the right offensive and defensive capabilities in terms of cyber. I mean, they're pretty progressive.
That's really cool because when I moved here and I got my social security number, I kind of felt like the system is really leaky here. And I think that I don't know how people feel here in the US, but outside of US, people probably think that things are really great in terms of like progress of technology. But even though there's Bay Area here, it feels like it's really behind as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, look, the United States is monumentally bigger than Estonia, and has its own sets of opportunities and challenges. But you look at the average uh, school district, their website, city council, go down that list, right? Uh, it's a mess, right? There are some things done really well in the U.S., and then there are just under-resourced cities, even state governments, and when you look at our average customer base, most do not have a full-time IT or security person, and that includes everything I just listed: school districts, courthouses, DMVs. Go down that list. they're not extremely well funded as it pertains to digital or cybersecurity. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, at the same time a lot of risk of what is and can be exposed. I mean, it's not very hard to hack a local city or other government, website or service. It's just not been a priority or focus for many.
And it's what I think people don't realize. And before that, we were talking about fear in marketing for cybersecurity companies. And I talk with some folks, and they run cybersecurity companies, and they are a little bit afraid to use fear in marketing of cybersecurity because they feel like, hey, maybe it's a little bit
Yeah.
unethical. Maybe I'm just like a little bit too manipulative. But in reality, I feel like that's really what works. And also that is really what is like kind of people don't realize how many risks there are, right? Maybe you could share more on that. We talked about all those risks and things that are going on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
let's talk about the humans involved, you and I. Every bit of our information is somewhere on the internet. You can go to haveibeenpwned.com. You could type in your email
Mhm.
address. Troy runs that website. It will tell you every password that's been leaked. And it's pretty eye opening, right? When you type in your email address and it shows you all the data breaches you've been part of and your password's been exposed. Like, you see your password right there.
That's
That It
terrifying.
is
Yeah.
terrifying. And,
Yeah.
and it's one reason to use a password manager.
Where can you see that?
It's have I been pwned. So it's like have I been owned
.com.
.com. Yeah. It's
And you can just check all your passwords.
correct.
Can you check passwords of your ex and
No. So
just
so so you have to
yeah.
type in your email
Mhm.
address, and it is validated, and it shows you sort of
Gotcha.
what open breaches. This information's all public, by the way. All
You feel like you could almost use it for hacking if you like that's what I mean. Like you kind of like find it for another person.
Yeah, and that's why Troy blurred out some of the passwords. Like
Gotcha.
some of your
Oh, so
passwords.
you know that they got it, but they
Yeah,
don't always
exactly.
show it to
So
you.
so
Got
what
it.
what Troy's website does,
Mhm.
it is aggregates all the data breaches that are public. So all of this
Mhm.
information, if you really wanted to find it, is public. Unfortunately, it's on some repository somewhere, all the way back to like the Yahoo breaches, Equifax, et cetera, et cetera. So like that's just one aspect of it. Super scary. Type in your email, you get your passwords, and you realize how
So
many.
anybody watching it, they can do it. Like they can
Correct,
just like go
for
to
free.
website.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Troy's website is
Mhm.
fantastic. He does this for the public service, public good. We have a digital footprint scanner at Malwarebytes too. It's also free. You type in an email address. We ask a bit more information about you, and it will tell you everywhere we can find information about you online. It is just eye opening. So like that's one element of it. You go on to the next thing. It's your identity being stolen. You accidentally click on a link on a website. Your computer's been ransomed now, where they're asking $400. Like the amount of vectors of attack just continues to grow. Now you layer on AI, and we haven't even talked about businesses and the impact that they're feeling, right? So imagine you're starting a business. You're at 5 people. You make candles. I don't know. I'm making it up. The last thing on your mind is cybersecurity, right? So you sort of have to ask for help from a managed service provider, which is why they're our customers. And you pay handsomely for this, for this protection, and it's not guaranteed because many of these managed service providers, unfortunately, are as unequipped as you are to actually manage security and IT. They too are understaffed. They too are just starting. And so I look at that. I put that all in a blender. I mean, we're in for a scary awakening. Not to say the
Oh,
last
so
10
it's just
years.
getting worse.
Yeah, it's just going to get worse.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so when
Gotcha.
you talk about
Mhm.
fear and uncertainty, doubt,
Mhm.
FUD as we call it, like I don't love marketing around that. In fact, I don't need to because the media does a great job of it. The highest sales days for Malwarebytes, at least on the consumer side, are the day after a big announcement of a breach. So when, Equifax was breached, everybody's social security number was leaked. The next day we sold a ton of identity protection. So unfortunately, that's what makes this business operate because nobody wakes up. I think we were talking about this on the way over here. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I need to change today? My cybersecurity provider, right? There needs to be a compelling event. And unfortunately, most times that's something either in the news in the media where it affected somebody else, or unfortunately it affected that person that made that decision.
And that's just reality, how
It's
those
just a
things
reality.
are solved.
Yeah.
Must be tough for you to kind of like manage this because like in one way it's good for your
Yeah.
business. Another way it's like your mission is to kind of prevent it, right? So it's kind of like inner
Yeah.
kind of
It,
things
it,
are
it is. Look,
against you.
I think
Mhm.
selling our software, our services, puts food on the table for the
Mhm.
various employees we have here. We also, contribute back to the communities. But at the end of the day, like I go back to the reason I started this business, which is I myself was afflicted with a cyber threat.
Mhm.
And it's why we offer so much stuff for free. Like we want to show value at the same time we want to help people. Like I've always talked about democratizing access to cybersecurity for those who need it most. And that's unfortunately, consumers and small, medium businesses. Large enterprise, they've got millions and millions of dollars invested. Not to say that they're not getting hacked every single day, but at least they have the resources and the people, and they can pay those people, an attractive salary. A small, medium business, 100, 200 employees, they can't attract the level of talent that they need. And that's scary.
Talking about talent, is it why you moved to Bay Area, or do you like it more than Chicago?
Once again, another accident in my life. I was early on introduced to one of my co-founders who's in the Bay Area, and we started our first office in Gilroy, which, for those who don't know, that's the the garlic fields way south of here. And we sort of incrementally moved up to South San Jose, and then downtown San Jose, and now we're sort of by the San Jose airport. But yeah, that's the reason we kind of got out here. At some point, then it got away from me. I was the only one in Chicago. There was 10, 20 people here. And it's like, I got to move. And it's been great. I miss Chicago dearly, but can't beat the weather here.
Yeah, the weather is amazing for sure. Are you like sinking in all the Bay Area? Like, what do you typically do here? Are you like a Burning Man person, or is it not your thing? Or are you more like, okay, that is crazy, I'm more like South Bay? And
the idea of Burning Man definitely intrigues me. I've never had an opportunity to go. I've heard a ton of great things from friends. But one thing I love doing is just I'm a big aviation nerd, so I do fly a bunch, and being able to fly like 300 plus days a year because the weather's great. That's a big perk of being out here.
Well, you fly 300 days a year?
No, you can. I'm just saying, in Chicago, that's not the case. Once the winter
there's an airport in San Jose for like small planes.
Yeah.
I think I live right next to it. Yeah.
There are so many airports in the U.S. specifically that like people don't know. People fly into SFO, Oakland, and San Jose International. Between all those airports, you've got Hayward, you've got San Carlos, you've got Palo Alto, you've got Reed Hillview. There's so many small airports in the world, in the U.S. specifically, that people don't even know about.
It's like a culture. Like I went to ski in Aspen or something. There's an airport right next to the ski resort.
It's called a $100 hamburger, because if you're flying somewhere for lunch, it's going to cost you at least $100 to get there with the plane rental, the fuel, and all that. But it's more affordable than people think to fly a little 172 around.
So how does it work? Like if you want to, you obviously have a license, you fly planes. How does it work? So people just like own planes and they park them, or they rent them, and they just like, hey, I have a meeting. Can you just fly, or like how does it work?
Yeah, it's amazing how permissive general aviation actually is, if you can afford it, of course. I could go to Palo Alto Airport, which is a short 2,400-foot runway in Palo Alto, right on the bay. Sign up for that club, get checked out, as long as I have a license, and I can rent a 172 for $250 a flight hour. You and I could go together to LA and back for $500, which
plus gas?
No, that's all included.
$500?
Pretty much.
That's very affordable.
I mean, for you and I and one other person, that's, call it $600, $200 round trip. Like now
this is the same
Southwest
as
airfare,
flight,
right?
Yeah.
So, and we call the tower the minute of departure, and we say we want to go.
Like, hey, can I take off?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like, sorry, the code language, and
pretty much.
And then you just take off. And
no flight plan needed, no prior notice. You show up at the airport, you boot up the plane, you start the engine, you taxi the runway, you take off, and you go to LA.
No
security.
Time does it take to get the license? No security.
No
so
security.
You can okay.
I've flown with friends who show up at the airport like, I'm not patting you down, man. So
no way. So you just go, and
great.
Can you go to another country?
Then now things get a little weirder. Okay. So I've flown to Canada before. You've got to get some permissions, border crossing, all that stuff. But if you're talking about just the United States, and the Bay Area is complex airspace, so it's a bit different. You have to ask some permission. If you go to middle of Wyoming, you can get in the plane, talk to nobody, and get up in the air. Nobody.
Oh, like no tower, nothing. You just like get
literally
up in the air.
Taxi and go. You don't even have to have a radio legally. You do not have to have a radio.
Okay, so and then you just see kind of a radar where other planes are, just not to crash them, or like how?
No, you don't even get that.
Okay, so like wait, but like how do you not crash? Like
there are guidelines.
Okay,
yeah. So I don't know what about aviation interests me. I think it's like the orchestrated chaos, just like running a company, right? Which is there are guidelines and some rule books, but like some of it's loosely followed.
So like when there's another plane and you're like head to head, like which is it like you go ride like a car, or is it
Ex-
like
ex-
British
exactly.
way?
There are
Okay.
things like that, right? So like
Yeah.
if you let's say you go to an uncontrolled airport, which Paso Robles is south of here, Wine County, country, wine, whatever, uncontrolled airport. You can land there without talking to anybody. You can do whatever the heck you want in terms of how you enter the airspace and the pattern. But there are guidelines, like you know, for this runway, we enter from the left and we announce ourselves and we say where we are. Doesn't mean you have to follow those rules, and many don't. But if you want to be a safe pilot, that's exactly what you would do. You would,
Do you fly like, do you control the plane the whole way, or does it like go by itself as soon as you take off?
yeah, it depends. What you know, single pilot operations inherently more dangerous than having a co-pilot who's doing the radios and stuff like that,
Mhm.
right? So while I trained to hand fly extensively, to take workload off, you click on the autopilot when needed.
Mhm.
When you're at cruise, I mean, just like the big pilots
Mhm.
at United, Southwest, you're pretty much on autopilot if you have it.
Really interesting. So where's the industry heading? Like in general, like cybersecurity. We talked about it a bit. Share more about that.
Yeah, I think the world continues to get scarier as as I've hopefully impressed on everybody here, and consumers, people like you and I care deeply about our privacy or identity, and so we're at least very focused on solving those problems, not only present but future problems. So, for example, one of the coolest features we launched recently is something called Scam Guard. With you've probably gotten tons of text messages that try to get you to click a link because it's UPS or IRS and then asks you for your password, stuff like that. You could actually take those messages, plug it into our scam guard, and it's going to tell you whether it's a likely to be a scam or not. It'll analyze it, use AI itself to do so. So I just think these social engineering attacks will continue on consumers. AI is going to make those far more prevalent and effective. I mean, they're getting pretty good. Um, you know why the Nigerian prince scam was written so poorly. You know what I'm talking about, where you get an
I
email.
know this. I know the thing. They even did that in Family. They had a Family Guy episode
Yeah,
about
because
it.
they're trying
Yeah.
to weed out the
Mhm.
people that will actually fall for it.
Oh no
Yeah, so
way.
like it's so bad,
Yeah,
for you to fall for it, you actually
because they don't want to deal with them down the
they need to
pipeline.
down select, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's qualifying leads
Yeah, it's a qualifying
effectively.
leads. No way.
But
Okay.
AI sort of turns that all
Mhm.
upside down. Now you can actually tailor these messages to people.
Mhm.
You have information on them, so that's extremely scary. And then businesses, I mean, similar issue, and you see now why we're separating the two units of our business, because the problems are both scary, but they're very different. Like I just talked about texting scams and phishing and social engineering. Some of that is applicable to businesses, but as a business owner, you're not getting a text message from UPS to get a gift card for that person or whatever, right? Businesses, I mean, it's gloves off. I mean, it is becoming real business disruption. Businesses are going out of business because of this stuff,
No
right?
way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if your manufacturing plant's down for a week,
Mhm.
you've lost substantial amount of revenue. Can you make it, or is your competitor
Yeah.
gonna take an advantage at that point? Right? You lose customers that way. It's scary, man. I like to think that we have a lot of smart people working against these cyber criminals,
Mhm.
but just today, Russia's national carrier Aeroflot was taken off completely offline by Ukrainian attackers. Like bad example, but that
So
can
no
be
flights
no
the
flights
whole day?
whatsoever, right? Obviously,
All the flight.
they're in a war. That's
Yeah.
that's a different situation,
This is
but
like an insane
it's an example of
financial
what can
cost for the
happen,
business,
right?
right?
I
Mhm.
mean, there was a CrowdStrike outage. Again, I don't fault CrowdStrike. In fact, George Kurtz is a friend. I think he runs an amazing business. They're a EDR, MDR, similar business as ours. They serve larger enterprise. But last year they had a massive outage that took Delta Airlines offline for 24 hours. United, you name it. That's not even a cyber attack necessarily, but the implication, the impact of that. Now imagine if you could replicate a cyber attack just like that. You're talking about real businesses offline, real services. I mean, now you go after hospitals. You get it, right?
And
I
you can
mean,
do it, right? Like, depends on the budget and bunch of, like, hackers you have on your team.
everything's
You can hack
everything's
everything,
hackable.
right?
Everything's hackable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
back to Stuxnet, where the U.S. took Iranian centrifuges offline a decade plus ago through 6 vulnerabilities chained together in a USB stick. I mean, insanity that we were able to spin those centrifuges at a speed that destroyed them. you put your mind to it, you can hack anything on this planet, provided it's somewhat connected to the internet one way or another.
And then especially with like the rise of IoT and everything being part of a network, right?
Listen, the fact that everything's internet connected now actually makes this so much worse.
Yeah.
There was gosh, the name of the attack is slipping me now, but the idea was, so all of these devices coming online, Barbies, refrigerators, are built with such low-grade security in mind that you can actually access each of these devices with...
Because they have like cameras or something?
cameras,
like
baby
a Barbie
cameras.
that can like
Everything
spy on you.
Why is everything internet connected? No idea, right? But when every one of these devices has a basic password, like admin and password, or user and password, and you can get access, all you have to do is scan the internet, find these devices, access them with those basic credentials, which are so generic, and then use those internet connected devices and point them at a server or a network and take it down. This was a real attack. So it's called a DDoS, denial of service. When a million people come to, a specific service, website, government, whatever, that server can't handle the load. Maybe you're not paying for load balancing. The idea is you're basically focusing the energy of the sun on this service. And those devices shouldn't have been on the internet in the first place. They're just being used in an attack.
So what I'm hearing is you guys are not going to be out of business for a long time.
Well, that's the upside of being in the cybersecurity industry. It's obviously heartbreaking to see when, students' psychiatric records are leaked online. I mean, that is a heart-breaking, phenomenon. But, I certainly am in a stable industry that, requires a tremendous amount of investment and people to keep the world running.
That is scary. And what else is going to be happening? Like, what's your predictions? Like big things happening in the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah. I mean, already, there's scams where, somebody in accounting or finance gets a call. Sometimes they get a text from me saying, hey, I need you to pull over and buy 10 gift cards.
In your very own company.
In my own company. Yeah. So, there's at least 10 a month where an employee posts on our Slack channel jokingly, oh, I got the Marcin message. And it's, hey, Marcin, hey, Matt, it's Marcin. I'm in a meeting right now, so I can't talk live. I need you to get me 10 gift cards for a customer. It's pretty fishy, but
yeah,
you start to say, hey, Marcin, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a new employee, and then that person responds back saying, do not be insubordinate. You will be fired if you don't do this. The pressure starts to add up, right?
Yeah.
Why would you question that?
Yeah.
So you go to Walgreens, you buy 10 gift cards, you scratch off the back. All of this,
give the code. Yeah.
It seems obvious talking about it now, but right? Because where I'm going with this, but you're a new employee at Malwarebytes. You get a text message.
Stress the hell out.
Exactly. You've never met me in person. So like you've got to build a culture in any company where it's okay to question. And so where am I going with this? That seems relatively easy. But now let's say you can fake the CFO's voice. You can call our head of accounting. You can authorize a wire. Let's say now you can actually fake out of an image or multiple videos, an actual deep fake video authorizing said transfer. I mean, at some point you question reality. There was a my voice was deep faked and accounting picked up, and luckily our head of accounting is smart and came to me and said, did you authorize this? Do you want me to do this?
And works with a cybersecurity company,
right?
But not every company is a cyber. You probably have the best of the best when it comes to cybersecurity.
And it still happens to us. Billions and billions of dollars get stolen. So now, I don't know if you've had to perform a wire transfer in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But even for $10, if you're trying to wire money, as long as it's a new account, they're going to call you and ask you, are you doing this under duress? Did somebody offer you services on the other? Like the questions are, to me, obviously, because I'm in cybersecurity, like, oh, we're doing this again. But I mean, I hope people are questioning, wait, so I did buy a house, but did I get the account number, because let's say you buy a house, the title companies have been hacked. So they know who's buying houses. So the minute you're ready to wire your down payment, they're calling you saying, here's the information, and it's the wrong information.
Wow. Do governments come to you and ask for help? Can you talk about that? I mean, you don't have to. If you can.
So we certainly cooperate in terms of helping take down real cyber criminals by providing information, not like customer information or things on our VPN, which we don't log. So if people do want to use our VPN, to be truly private online. I mean, that's the nature of the product, right?
Yeah.
But if there's any data we can because we saw it on a customer's machine and there's a specific
Mhm.
threat and they need more information, we share IP addresses of networks that we know are hosting badware. So in that regard, yeah, we do cooperate because we want the same thing the government wants, which is these websites that are serving this bad stuff down. But only to the point where we protect our customers better. That's really all we can do. So
That is so interesting. Really, like, honestly, I'm way more worried than I was now that I didn't I mean, it's just, like, not something you think about, and now it's like, oh, like, you can hack any company, and those
yeah,
things are, like, terrible. You could destroy anyone, sounds like.
absolutely. I mean, but and if it helps you sleep better at night, like there's millions of people just like me who really deeply care about this space and do it for the right reasons. Um, there will be waves of cybercrime. Cryptocurrency was one big lever. When now you can hold people for ransom and the currency is no longer traceable,
Right.
it becomes easier as a cyber criminal. Um, I think AI is going to be that next wave where
Mhm.
we just talked about the deep fakes. What's after that? I could sit here and predict all day long, but who knows?
Okay, it's like speculation
Yeah, it's
kind of thing.
speculation.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
I didn't think AI would, suddenly go from 0 to 100 or 60 or whatever. And
Right.
ChatGPT was certainly eye opening for a lot of folks. You knew that these things were in labs and
Yeah. But
there
when it
was
started, just like, what goes up.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've seen the GIF of Will Smith eating spaghetti, for example. In the first iteration, it's like the worst thing and now you type in Will Smith eating spaghetti. This is like the benchmark of how good AI has gotten, at least in terms of video. Yeah, I think it's hilarious watching Will Smith eat spaghetti and a year and a half ago, and Will Smith eating spaghetti today on a AI generated video.
That is insane.
I highly
S
recommend looking at it.
Okay, yeah, definitely, like, definitely Google that if you're watching it. So, Marcin, walk me through, how do you deal with running a company that has around 1,000 employees? And you're obviously in like a stressful space. I can imagine like it is a very stressful space. Like, how do you deal with stress? A lot of people watching this, they are running a company that's like, just them or maybe a couple of employees. I run company that's like under 10 employees. It's like still stressful, right? So how do you like, multiply this, not 100 employees, not 200, it's freaking 1,000 people. How do you how do you deal with stress?
Yeah, that part again. I've had maybe 2 decades to I wouldn't say perfect. That's it's not at all correct
But
to
like, work
absorb
on
and
it,
learn
yeah.
on the job. To me, it's more the cybersecurity piece where like we want to do a good job for our customers, and you're never going to be 100%. And the last thing you want to wake up to is a ransomware attack in one of your customer environments. And look, we've not been perfect, and this is why I'd never fault. I was saying the CrowdStrike piece because we've had our own set of issues. And, back in 2014, 15, we released an update that blocked access to the internet and also blocked access to update the product that was blocking access to the internet. So it's like
Big
dead.
fire,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, and it was just amazing. I learned, in that instance, it was like how you react and how quickly you react and how open you are to your customers. Our playbook is always the same, which is like, here's what happened, here's why it happened, here's why it will never happen again. And we're not perfect. We're going to be, we're going to have humility. We're going to be humble. And I've always seen like the team really step up in moments of crises like this. So brings me to my other point, which is the stress sort of erodes as you build a great team around you and they build a great team around them. So having, my highest stress levels have been when I know a team is not healthy, when I know the person's not the right fit for that role. And I've had that countless times because you learn and people uh, enter and exit the business. I mean, so ultimately, I've learned that the number one priority is building the right team for what the go forward should look like. The rest sort of figures itself out. If you're in tune with the market, you understand where it's headed. If you understand your customers' pain points and how they meet you in the channel, et cetera. Like, and you build great products with heart. I think the rest sort of figures itself out. But you got to have the right people around you. And I will be, I'll be the first to say sometimes, I realize I have faults, right? You're solving for your own faults as well, as the CEO, as a founder, as a young entrepreneur. Like haven't always gotten it perfect, but it starts there.
Okay, gotcha. So it's like once you get better team, you start trusting them and they take on, a lot of those things. You just trust that they're gonna make this work and that becomes less stressful for you. Then aren't you worried about like retention, like key people leaving? Isn't that the stress factor then?
It's a paradox, right? Like
Okay.
the people that are probably the best fit for you are also the most heavily recruited by every
Right.
other company out
They're in
there
demand,
and
right?
have tons of
Yeah.
optionality, which is why, it's sort of no assholes
Mhm.
kind of business for me. Like I have great relationships with the team. I will hold on to them for as long as I can. I understand that many of them will go on to have great careers as CEOs, GMs, whatever, beyond here. And, you've got to find the next person that's willing to take and many times it's on the team itself, right? We parted ways with an executive 3 years ago. His lieutenant is now our head of engineering, and he's fantastic. I mean, he was ready, willing, learned a lot, and is one of the hardest workers I know, and like melts my stress away. That's sort of back to your question around stress levels.
So would you say like if you're starting out and your company keeps growing, would you say the stress doesn't really like grow? Is it going
I
down?
don't know.
Is
It
it the
sort of
same?
scales, right? Certainly, early days where you're fighting for every dollar and there's actual runway. Like we're a profitable business, so I can say half my stress is gone right away because
Right.
I don't have a runway anymore.
Right.
When you're desperately, counting every nickel in the bank account, that's a different proposition altogether. So
Mhm.
this is why you and I were joking. I know your audience B2B. If you could start a consumer business and it's all online transactions and you can get scale, it's just such a highly profitable engine. B2B takes time to scale, it takes capital. And so I'm a big believer in freemium as well. So anyway, sort of on a tangent there, I know cash flow and being able to pay your people, that's a big, big stress, obstacle. And especially in early entrepreneurial days, I do not want to go back to those days as a business, to be frank. So getting to profitability, that's definitely, valued in today's day and age as well. Like the world's changing quite a bit with interest rates and more. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, finding your first customer, I remember how those days looked like.
So it sounds to me almost as if it was harder earlier. It sounds
I think
like
so.
fighting to get like
It's a
ICP.
paradox again, isn't it?
It is, right?
You
It's like
sort of get your groove and things get a little easier,
and once you like push through, it's like a little bit better.
which is why, I think there's some fundamentals. I, I'm a big believer of finding a few co-founders as well who just
Mhm.
have the tenacity, the grit, the chops, if you will. My early three co-founders, I call them co-founders, but it was over the span of 2 or 3 years that they joined. We were all in this to build something great, and sort of, I was at the University of Illinois. Others, one guy still had his job. Like we were still sort of trying to do it under a veil of protection. I know most people take the gloves off and say, "This is what I'm going to go try," and I mean, that takes courage for sure.
What did you learn about finding right co-founders?
Uh, th- Definitely people that were opposite of me,
Okay. So they kind of like compensate
for
for
sure.
the skills that
Absolutely.
or soft skills that you don't have that are required for the project.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a technical person like me, another technical person is just, sure, a great skill set, great
And you
advisor.
probably vibe better
Totally.
together. Mhm.
Absolutely. But then who's going to go build the brand? Who's going to build
Right.
the go to market? I mean, you got to sell the stuff you build.
Right.
Now, if you build something really cool and like it takes the world by storm, that's a bit different. And there's many companies like that, but ultimately, eventually, they'll hire somebody with great marketing skill set, sales skill set. You get the point.
How big are you on great product versus great sales?
Yeah, I I this is something that I say both are actually very, very equal to each other because I've seen extremely terrible products in our industry outsell us because of their amazing go-to-market motion. They've built the right channels, distribution, and it will be a disadvantage if you rely just on products. That doesn't say don't mean that it's not possible. And there's plenty of products out there that are phenomenal. But you look at Apple. Not only is their product pretty good, falling behind in a lot of ways, but their product marketing is phenomenal. I buy a phone every year because the battery's 30 minutes longer. Like, it, I'm probably stupid, but their
Yeah.
marketing works. It's effective.
So, as a CEO of the company with 1,000 people and you not being in sales every day and in GTM, how do you control it? How do you lead it? Like, I'm sure like you have a massive role that you play in it, but you can't be in it every day. How does that work?
Yeah, this is where hiring the right person with, either uh, past experience and success, or somebody that can sort of prove themselves and, be in the journey early on is important. Yeah, I mean, it's just not a skill set of mine, and I've had to learn the hard way. As we talked about, some of the early enterprise story. That's an opportunity lost. Like we lost years on some of the stuff we were doing. Had we just buckled down and said, this is gonna be our ICP. We're gonna go through the channel because that's the way cybersecurity is sold. We're gonna separate the brand because Malwarebytes is too consumer. We can't go to market with one website because you have a free download here and a contact sales button here. That just doesn't make any sense. These are all like sort of practical, technical examples. But if we had gotten it right early on, I think we could have been successful faster. And given consumer, I'll be very honest, I think our consumer business sort of lost steam 5, 6 years ago. Now it's really back on track. I've got a general manager doing
Mhm.
a great job there, but it's because we were so focused on the B2B business. Doing all of this for everybody is just too hard. And while I may be, able to oversee both as CEO, um, having really great people just focus on that. You can't have one product team for managed services where you're actually actively protecting a business and an identity protection product for a consumer. Those are so different, right? It's like trying to sell, I don't know. I'm bad at analogies. You'll learn that about me, but you get the point. Like planes and hamburgers. I mean, those are two very different business motions, and
No, I think you're great with analogies. I
it
thought
took
these
me a
were
minute to get that one. I'm not sure it's good, but
okay. Gotcha. So, just the thing we talked about before, when it comes to you leading the sales process, it would be just sitting down and just reverse engineering what needs to be done, and then you talked a little bit about the negotiation with the team. Could you talk a little bit about this? How would you do that?
yeah, I read a great book. I think it was called The Sales Acceleration Formula by Mark Roberge, who's the one of the early founders of HubSpot. And he was an engineer at heart, similar to my background, like nothing about
Mhm.
sales or marketing. And so he thought he'd take the scientific approach to it, or and so hired his first couple of sales reps, wrote down the qualities that they had, successful in sports, very analytical, etc. And of the 10, 5 ended up doing a really great job doing sales, 5 did not. And so he looked at the qualities of the 5 and sort of, you know,
Reverse engineer
and
further.
so where I'm going with
Mhm.
this is like, sales is part art for sure. I couldn't sell my way out of a paper bag. I think we talked a little bit about this. Like I'm the type of person that pays MSRP. I'm not haggling. I'm not negotiating. I just want to, get out of this conversation and purchase said product. And therefore, like the inverse of that would be hard for me. Um, but it's also part science where, you sort of can back into what do you need. So if we want to be, $100 million of ARR on the B2B side this year, and our average deal size from our customers is $5,000, $10,000, whatever it may be. I need this many customers, new customers, whatever. I need this. So you sort of work back up the funnel and understand what you need, and then it's really just about how do you get there. Do we have enough sales capacity? Do we? So I like that it does sort of appeal to my scientific or engineering mindset. The rest is a black art, I will fully admit, and having people that are extra creative, I'm just amazed by some of the creative designs and ads and messaging that our team puts together. Um, but the rest is sort of straight math. We need this many leads. We're willing to spend this much money. Where can we? You sort of work backwards towards the funnel, and that's been a great approach for me. But also hiring just super creative people that can resonate with our target audience.
That's awesome. So I think I had, just going towards the end, I think we have a little bit less than 10 minutes. So what were just kind of like, I guess, motivate everyone watching it? Because obviously you had, I mean, I don't know that, but I'm guessing you must have had some moments when you were like, okay, this is not going to work. Have you ever had those moments when you're like, I'm going to close the shop, or it never happened?
Yeah, no, I mean quite a bit. Along the way, many in the early days, many in sort of the last, 5 years ago when things sort of hit a wall, and then we had to
Hmm.
go through this, idea of like separating the two businesses. I mean, I'm very open about it. When you're trying to solve everything for every customer, you're solving nothing for anybody, and so the brand loses, relevance and awareness. So that was more the sort of recent example of like, what am I doing here? Do I know what we're doing? In terms of the two businesses being together and separating them. So I had really great mentors, had a great board, helped me through that. We brought in new investors who sort of understood the thesis, the hypothesis. But I'll put it this way, like, as an entrepreneur, a CEO, your job is to constantly just get punched in the face, right? Like, there's more downs than there are ups, and they certainly peak higher and trough lower. You have your worst days and your best days, and like, I'll give you an analogy. Like, as I was getting this business started, I obviously had a lot of college friends who also wanted to be entrepreneurs, and like a month later, they're like, "Yeah, I'm not making any money. I think I'm going to give this up." I'm like, "It's been 30 days."
Yeah.
Like, some of it is just,
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
until you do get some success, and then taking those successes and trying to double those successes. And it's like in the early days, we sold our first, you know, license, and then how do we get to the next day? Just really working the problems on a microscopic level. That's how you get to scale, right? I mean,
Just like solving problems. Like, okay, things are not working out. I'm just gonna solve the
box the
problem.
problem,
Just
right?
box it
Yeah,
and reverse engineer.
there's a great book called Crossing the Chasm as well. It's a very long read for really what I learned from that book, and I sort of read it after starting the business. Like 10 years into the business, I read this book. I'm like, oh, now I understand. When we went after, the book basically says, as you start to onboard early customers, go after really the enthusiasts in your space. So if you're building, a motorcycle helmet, figure out, you're not building a motorcycle helmet for everybody. You're figuring it out for like the adrenaline junkie or the person that wants the HUD because they want to see their speed there instead of you get the point, right?
Yeah.
And so when we were starting Malwarebytes, our customer was not actually the end user that bought the product. Remember, it was that person helping that person,
Okay.
right? So and there were only dozens, maybe
Mhm.
hundreds of those individuals, whereas the end customer market was millions of people, billions of people worldwide that were buying cybersecurity products, right? So when we built Malwarebytes, we were not building Malwarebytes for that end customer. We didn't really know what they wanted, or
Mhm.
we were building this free distribution, remediation engine for
Mhm.
Mika, who helped me. If
Right.
Mika just had a tool that she can help more people, life was better. So anyway, thinking you should definitely read Crossing the
Mhm.
Chasm. It's definitely a top 10 business book that most people recommend. But also, as you're trying to build a business, not going after the mass market right away, but really going after like the champions that might be interested in the differentiated product that you have to offer, right?
Is
So,
this how you found your ICP, or and who those champions are? Sorry,
well, but
multiple questions here, but
yeah, and by the way,
Mhm.
that when we finally got scale, that customer
Mhm.
base changed. Those people were now recommending Malwarebytes to other people, and it wasn't just the techies. And we should still serve those, and they're still in our DNA. Um, like I'll give you an example. I just invested in a small company that helps with AI recruiting. And what do what do you think's happening when?
Do you wanna say what it's
Yeah,
called,
yeah.
or
So
is
no,
it
no, no.
like
Sure. So it's Nora AI. It was a startup out
Mhm.
of the University of Illinois that I judged a
Mhm.
competition, found it really interesting, super early, like handful of customers. But you better believe he calls an HR professional recruiter and says, I'm going to pitch you on this solution that sort of takes your job away from you for all intents and purposes.
So
Like
you're gonna hate me right away,
eh, you,
or
you
maybe not.
you can't blast that to everybody
Right.
because 99 out of 100 people are going to say this
Yeah.
is taking my job away.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants to interview with an AI, but like that's where the world's headed.
Mhm.
And guess what? You're going to find early adopters, early champions. He's found product market fit with a specific, company that does high velocity recruiting. She uses it to get through resumes quickly. It's not, we're not talking about CFOs being recruited through this. It's like entry level customer success support, blue collar workers. Like, you get the point. And so, my guidance to him was A, read Crossing the Chasm, but B, also focus on sort of the ones that will be early adopters and expect 99 to say no, but don't go after them. Like, focus on where those people are, what their pain points are, build products for them, because once they adopt and they're early adopters, uh, the rest of the industry is going to realize that they're getting left behind.
Both in B2B and B2C?
Well, this is, he's selling to recruiters mostly.
Okay.
So like, even
Yeah.
where's this a pain for me?
Yeah.
I list a role for a customer support engineer, whatever, right? 1,000 people apply. My recruiting team, my sourcing team, it's so arbitrary. You look at a resume
Mhm.
and you're like, I don't know, yes. I don't
Mhm.
know, no. It's like
Mhm.
the Tinder of,
Yeah.
of recruiting. At least here, you get 10 minutes with a AI
Mhm.
recruiter. It takes your answers, it summarizes them, and it identifies, would you be a better fit
Mhm.
than the next candidate, right? At least there's some objectionality, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And again, this is an early startup. It was a cool concept. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's gonna be successful. I think they will, but certainly a great proof point of where you got to go focus on that niche of players that will at least listen and adopt and try and pay for your product. Because if you call, even my recruiter, we're not ready for that. But there's a bunch of people out there that definitely are and are willing to try and experiment.
But then how did you, and that's again like for B2B and B2C, right?
Yeah, yeah, sorry,
The truth. No, you good. And then how'd you convert it? How did you convert to ICP, to finding ICP from those folks?
Well, on consumer, it's a lot easier. It's sort of anybody that needs cyber and
Right.
is possibly experiencing an attack. It
Mhm.
skews older. I mean, just being real, most young people out of the university aren't out there searching for antivirus and identity protection. Like something has to happen for that to be a catalyst. Um, the ICP on the B2B side was a lot longer of a journey, right? We went after large enterprise at first. It took us years to realize we didn't have the credibility, the product even in terms of scalability, um, and that we were much better fit for smaller businesses. Not small, but smaller, right?
Like
And
small to medium
yeah,
size. Mhm.
call it 100 to 1,000 employees. They might have one or two IT people, maybe a security person, um, and are probably trying to bring this in house. Our product is much easier to use than some of the enterprise grade products out there. It's still very good. It's just simpler, easier to use. Gives you good snapshots. So like realize quickly, and at scale, you sort of see who your customers are, and then you realize, well, we only have a few customers in this very, very large enterprise segment, and they're demanding all of our attention and engineering resources,
Versus the other ones. Okay.
which are our bread and butter, and maybe we should be focusing on them, right?
Right.
So some of it we learned in a painful way. If I were to sit down earlier on, it's like, well, who's contacting us inbound? What's the market landscape look like? There's a lot of players in a large enterprise. What do we even need to compete in a large enterprise? Well, you need Gartner MQ and
Mhm.
you need it's ironic, right? You need large enterprise references to go close large enterprise deals. That's sort of
Right.
circular.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's like catch 22.
Doesn't mean you
Mhm.
can't do it. And there's plenty of
Mhm.
companies like Wiz recently, for server security or cloud security and more. But I just feel it's harder. I think there's a big mid-market segment that's largely overlooked that are looking for technology and solutions, just like you are, who's probably listening to this podcast, right? So again, that's just me. I know that if I were to start another company, another one after that, another one after that, none of them are going to be serving the large enterprise.
Gotcha.
I just
Okay.
think it's a very
Mhm.
tough nut to crack.
Mhm.
Consumer easier. You can get scale quickly, distribution quickly. And mid market, I think, is just still ripe for a go to market. I mean,
Mhm. Like the best.
I think so. And managed service
Mhm.
providers who are serving these
Mhm.
SMB customers need to be a path to that channel because, like I said, and especially around technology, this is a proprietor on the corner here who was a break fix shop. People would bring their laptops in. You remember the days, 2008. People would bring their desktop in, their laptop in. It's broken, the battery, the hard drive. Now, unfortunately, it's like, well, I'm just going to recycle it and get a new one, or I'm going to go to Apple, get it, talk to the Genius Bar. Um, that industry is sort of dead. There's Geek Squad took over a big segment of that. So they've had to reinvent themselves. And what's the right way to do that? Hey, there's 50 businesses around me. They don't have any IT or security people. They're in desperate need of somebody that can provision email, provision laptops, desktops. You know, I think it's a fast growing segment. If you want to go after the SMB mid market, managed service providers are your bread and butter for sure.
Perfect. Marcin, we're going to wrap up here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and watching or listening until the end. Marcin, thanks so much for being an awesome guest and for sharing all the stories.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it too.
Thank you.